All right, Chad, welcome in. Thank you for being here with me today. I'm super excited for everyone listening to be able to, if they have not heard your story, to hear about you. But I'm just excited to chat with you and have a conversation. And as I shared with you, as we had a friend introduce us, Clint Pulver, and as I shared with you guys, kind of one of the things that was really striking to me is the learning about what happened to you and how that intersects with my own life. And to me, it's pretty impactful. And as I've prepared for this and got to know, I kind of feel like I am reading a different version of my own story. And so I'm super excited to just chat with you and have a great conversation today.
Cool. Yeah, I don't know that I'll be sharing my story, but hopefully, I'm sure bits and pieces will come out. I try and never make it about me, but things will come out that'll be relative to our audience for sure.
Yeah, so just a little bit about, to get started, obviously, you are one of probably the most active speakers in the world, and yet this last year has been a major challenge and difference for so many people. I'd love to kick off and know, what have you learned in the last 18 months for a guy that was on the road a lot to, being forced off the road, and what has that meant for you the last year and a half?
Shondell and I just celebrated 27 years, and for 21 of those, I've been traveling. Thank you. For 21 of those, I've been traveling, usually staying about 26 to 28 days a month in a hotel. Now, you're not allowed to judge me on that. There's a reason why. I like to get myself dressed. I know we say for better or worse in the wedding vows, but I have found a hotel room and me being busy to be my drug of choice and spending time with people. When I'm home, I see the dream that Shondell and I were building, and I can enjoy it for a day or two. And then I get a little, I haven't mastered this yet after 21 years. So I've been in a wheelchair for 21 of the 27 years. And so to your point, your question, what have I learned? That when the planes stop flying and the hotel room is shut down because people aren't gathering, I am learning, and we're 15 months after that now. It's now July, it's now middle of July 2021. And so we're into this about 15 months. We picked up about 9 weeks ago and been pretty busy, and that's great. But I've learned that it taught me it's not about what's my drug of choice. She needs me home. I've learned how to be a better husband. I don't have this sucker master, not even close. I thought I was a pretty good husband. I had no idea. I've learned how to be a better father. We have 4 children. 2 are out of the house. We adopted 2 that are younger. They didn't have parents when we adopted them. They've never had a father figure in their life. I'll say that again. They don't know a dad that's home other than a dad that doesn't miss their activities. So me being home during COVID and being somewhere other than my bedroom, watching a movie, putting on COVID weight, and going out into the room, the kitchen, when my daughter from Guatemala or my son from Ethiopia is doing their homework, ages a junior in high school and a 6th grader, just to sit by him and just like, hey, can I hang out with you? That was a pivot point for me. Learning how to surrender and saying, Shondell, I really appreciate your help getting me dressed. And then I used to say, I can do this by yeah, but it's not about that. I want you to go spend time with the kid. I understand. Thank you for your help, Shondell. That's hard. Learning to allow her and what her love language is to help and to serve me. Because if she can't serve me, in her words, it's tough to go serve others out in the community and in the air. That's her love language. That's what she does. She serves. So that's what, to not take for granted the opportunity to gather with your siblings at Easter or for Father's Day, because we missed that in Mother's Day last year. We usually have a family get together and a family dinner. We didn't have that. So, and finally, I'll just say this. Notice we haven't talked about business at all right now, because some things are more important than business.
Yeah.
Don't wait to lose something before it becomes sacred to us in our lives. So that means for each one of our listeners to be more of a proactive, conscientious person of other people's needs, their fears, their victories, and try and help them with their fears or help them overcome a need or help them celebrate a victory before we lose the opportunity to do so. So don't wait for a birthday to tell them how much they mean to you. Don't wait for Father's Day to call up your dad and say, Dad, just want you to know, now I'm traveling today, and I was reflecting on, Dad, those words you said to me in the hospital 21 years, Dad. Thanks for always being there, Dad. I better let you go. Bye, Dad. Bye. And I'll lose it. And then, to my kids, even the ones that are out, hey, you boys, I've been thinking about something. I never missed a game, and you guys always brag about that. But, and this is not a pity call, but where was I for Scouts? Because you guys got your Eagles, but I don't remember doing first class and the Weeblo badge. I don't remember that. I know who did it. I just want you guys to know that I appreciate you guys allowing Dad to do that for 21 years. I need to be more involved in your lives. Now that you guys are growing up, I'm finally learning. And I want to be more involved in your children's lives once you have children. And so I just wanted you boys to know how much that means to me that you let me do that. Thank you for allowing Dad to go be a drug addict for a while, and I'm trying to figure that out. So thanks, you guys. And that's what I've learned. Business, that's a different story. And yes, we're busy, and that's all. But business now is not. I don't have that mastered, but I'm having a little bit of a mind shift right now.
So what are you learning there? I'd love to know that.
Well, we shifted the way we do business. I mean, don't get me wrong. When things started opening up again 9 weeks ago, I got hooked. You know how people fall back into their addictions? I just opened the floodgates and said, book whatever you want, whenever you want. And so they have. Now I'm in that phase where I'm kind of taking a step back saying, hey, I still want to be booked, but I noticed myself putting some things on the calendar that Shondel's asked me to. Hey, date night every week. Mm-hmm. Well, that means I fly to you or you fly home for date night. It is a date night every week. And here's all of Gracie's cheer. Here is the family vacation. No, Chad, I don't want you to fly in for just part of it. I want you there for all of it. And I don't have that mastered, by the way. I'm only coming in for half of this family reunion because I left the office and I chose that. But I am going to be there for half. So I'm learning this. So business is booming. People, as far as the speaking world goes, let me just and forget about speaking. Just the need to gather. There's never been a greater need for people to have hope, faith instilled than today. There's never been a greater need to have good news, and there's a lot of people that have good news to share. Hence the podcast today. This is good news. This is not something you're going to see on TNN or CNN or MSNBC or Fox. I'm not here to talk about politics. I'm just saying when I turn that stuff on in the hotel room, more often than not, I'm depressed, I'm sad, and I am not happy. It'd be cool to have just a straight news channel that does nothing but positive stuff, which is what you guys are all watching right now. So get addicted to this stuff. I'm just saying, get hooked where you're watching it all the time. This is not a plug. I'm just saying, get addicted to this stuff. Because what you feed your head will eventually become your actions. Actions will lead to the results you get. And I want good results. We've had good results, but finances are not. They're not long-lasting happiness. I heard this. If you want to be happy for a day, go play a round of golf. If you want to be happy for a week, maybe go to church and pay for yourself that week. If you want to be happy for a month, I don't know, go play 2 rounds of golf. But if you want to be happy for a lifetime, stay close to your closest friends, be proactive rather than reactive, and be willing to instill hope, light, and knowledge into the lives of other people without having something incur in their life to cause you to do that.
Chad, before I'm going to let our audience in. So, in April of 2001, you had a farming accident. In June of 1994, my family experienced a farming accident. I know what I was like before and after that. I want to know, what was the Chad like before your accident?
Well, I had my own business. I was driven. I still am driven. I feel like I'm a person with passion. I love to. I'm finding that I love people more and more, and don't like conflict, or I don't like to have people to have hard feelings. I'm finding that that's more important to me than it was prior. And before the accident, I had my own landscaping company to build the ranch. My dream's always been to be a farmer. So I was building that dream. I didn't have the money to pay for the ground or to bring in the elk. I've always wanted to have a lodge and a cabin and raise elk on several hundred acres, release them on several thousand acres in the Rockies, and have people want to pay to hunt. That industry is called a guiding service, an outfitter. And that's a very tough business to get into, but once you establish your base, you can do that. So I've just always had that kind of instilled. It's not what my dad did or my uncle or anything like that. My uncle was a cattle farmer, and so I used to go help him brand and things, and I loved that. But when it became legal to raise elk, I knew that's what I was going to do. So after I got home from my LDS 2-year mission to Bangkok, Thailand, I married the girl that I dated in high school. We got married about 6 months after I got back from Thailand, and we started on the dream quick. And I didn't have that money, so I started construction to be the fuel. We moved out to where we're at today. Sometimes we're in the office. This office is an offset of the house, and bought this land and started to build. And then I wanted to own several thousand acres in the Rockies. The owner put me on a 20-year lease with the option to buy at the end of every 5. 6 years into building that dream, still running construction, so contractor by day, farmer by night. I made a bad choice. We're not going to talk about that right now. And I ended up being what you're seeing today on the screen. So my hands are numb. I lost everything from the armpits to the toes. My stomach is numb. I lost 2 out of my 3 chest muscles. The muscle that I do have is called the diaphragm, which allows me to breathe with no trach in my neck. I did lose the midsection. I lost both of my legs, and I lost the use of my feet and toes, and the complete use of my fingers and hands. Well, I do use them for a lot. I can't feel them at all. I mean, they're completely numb. And that was where my new life was to begin. My dad quit his job and took over the dream of the farm for me. We'll leave that alone for right now. It took me my dad said I could still be a guide. I've always wanted to be a guide. And it took me a while to figure out how to do that incrementally and to do the little things that make the big things come to fruition. It's not the big things that have brought Chad Hymas across the world, as we see a global map behind your shiny global head. It is the little things that I've chosen to do every single day that have taken me all over those places. There's not too many places on that map behind you that I couldn't put a sticker on that I haven't been to. There's not. We have a map just like it, and Leslie keeps very close track of where I go, and I just like to look at it just because it shows me that farming has nothing to do with 600 acres. I think sometimes our listeners think too small, and I certainly was. I thought that 600 acres was a big piece of ground. That's small thinking. Yeah. I thought that thousands of acres in the Rockies was a big accomplishment. Small thinking. I think we've been in 89 countries. I just flew back in, this. Just landed. I mean, you know that because we talked right before. Yeah. I mean, landed. Barely landed. Barely. Like minutes. And came right here to this. In fact, you got a phone call earlier to see if we could move this 30 minutes. I mean, that took place. Yep. And I just want people to realize that there is so much potential out there, no matter what your dreams are, your ambition, your drive, your hopes. Sometimes we need to not think outside the box. Sometimes we need to get rid of the box minded thinking altogether. There's no box. I mean, where I live, not in the city, you walk out here in the mountains and you look up and I see we call them stars, but I call them farms. There's got to be a lot of farms up there where they're not praying for water, but it comes when you need it. Some call it heaven, and if that's all heaven is, that's all that it is. A place where I can serve my wife for all she's done for me and brush her horses and be I just want to be her servant. I just want to be your horseman. I'm dead serious. If all it is me saddling up the horse and having it ready, yes, ma'am, here you go, ma'am. If that's what heaven looks like, I would sign up for it today for eternity. If heaven is me serving her for all she's done for me, I will jump on that because something tells me there's a lot of green grass up there, a lot of farms, a lot of horses, a lot of elk, a lot of fish in streams. I don't have to shoot them. I don't have to kill them. I just like being around them.
Yeah.
I used to shoot. I'm not against it. My boys hunt. They try and get me to hunt every year. I'm not against it at all. So I'm not trying to portray that. I'm all for hunting. I just have stopped because I've killed enough in my lifetime and my freezer is full. There's no need for me to go shoot another animal. I've got in my office, I'm looking at 3 big elk mounts. I know that some people might be turned off by that. It's just me. It's just who I am. I love the outdoors, but I am done. I don't need any more elk mounts. I don't need any more horns. I don't need to put any more bullets in a gun. I just like to go out there and be around the horses and the elk. That's me. I hope I rambled. I'm sorry about that, Tyler.
No. Well, again, part of the excitement is like really as I share, and I'm going to share this, and this is probably vivid detail for our audience, and I won't lie to you, I got more emotional and understanding emotional preparing for this episode than I've ever been in another episode. And one, because I love to hear your passion, and it's a passion that I can relate to.
Sure.
The difference between what happened to you on that April 3rd and what happened to me is you made a rash decision as you described it. I made a rash decision on that, Thursday afternoon on June 4th, and I was in a hurry moving hay wagons, and I ran over my younger brother. You were in a hurry moving hay, and the bale ended up falling on you. You're here living. My brother is not living. I am, the effect of what happened has gone through me. The effect of your decisions went through you. And so as
there's similarities there.
Yeah. And I think that the difference between, quite honestly, my brother ending up like yourself is that he didn't live. Quite possibly that injury could have that. And so as I hear your story, again, it's so, for me, relatable.
So Tyler, can I ask you a question?
Yeah,
So
please.
is it fair we're just going to be bold and blunt here, which I think we are.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Is it fair to say that you ran over your brother and it took his life? Is that fair to say?
That is absolutely what happened.
That would be very, very tough for me. I would rather break my own neck as you would rather be run over yourself. I know that just by looking in your eyes and seeing your heart. So you took somebody's life.
Mm-hmm.
Here's the cool thing. Because there is something cool about this. As much as people don't, there's a lot of people that can relate to this right now that are listening. They might not have killed somebody, because that's what I guarantee you said that in your mind, the depression, the suicidal thoughts, the, hey, I don't deserve to live, put me in jail, put me in prison, all those thoughts. I get all that. I get that. Here's what I've learned. You're like one of my good friends whose name is John Walsh. John Walsh is the host of America's Most Wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything much harder to live with in life than knowing that, at least when you're a good-minded person like yourself, with good intentions, accidentally taking the life of somebody else, especially that of somebody that you're close to and that you've grown up to know, and that being your brother. John Walsh, on the same hand, was in charge of babysitting his son, Adam. That's all he had to do, just watch the son at the mall while the mother and the daughter are getting their nails done. That's all he had to do. He turns a blind eye for a brief moment, and his son is swiped. So that's a big deal. Mm-hmm. The only thing, as John has shared this publicly and in his book, and was awarded for what he's done for humanity, the only thing that kept John Walsh alive is probably similar to what you're doing now, is to honor his son's loss by the way that he moves forward and lives his life. That's the only thing that's kept him from taking a Glock to his chin. That's his exact words. The only thing that's kept him from suicide is to honor his son by a mistake that he feels he's responsible for. And John's not, while he's not religious, he's very spiritual. Listen, I'm just going to assume something right now. I'm going to assume that all of our listeners are listening because they're good people. I'm going to assume that all of our listeners are listening because they want to be successful professionally and personally. And I'm also going to assume that all of our listeners one day want to go to a better place after this life. I'm just going to make that assumption. If that is a correct assumption, listen closely to what Tyler is teaching us right now. And listen closely to what John Walsh is teaching us. You honor those things that you have made mistakes by and what your losses by the way you live. So I need to honor the way that I hurt my wife and my children, and the arguments and the bad language that I've used since then, and throwing her help away and being negative, by the way that I move forward. Likewise, Tyler honors the loss of his brother, whose life he took accidentally. By the way that he moves forward, doesn't mean he has to put a podcast in his name or put his name on or give his own child to his brothers. It has nothing to do with that. It's by the way he moves forward, because I believe when they are there that they see things from a completely different perspective. And you don't have to be a Christian or a Muslim or a Buddhist to believe that. We all have that in common. No one better than the other. And so I love that about John, who shares that so eloquently, and he's not a religious man particular to any religious sect. I'm a Latter-day Saint. It doesn't make me better than a Muslim. I'm a Christian. It doesn't make me better than a Buddhist. There are several great disciples all over the world, and they live their lives in accordance with that. That's what's great about life, is it allows us to learn and grow through our successes and through some of the things that we made mistakes and we failed. And some will do the selfish thing, and they'll go the other way. And I can't judge those people because I've done that. I just wasn't happy, nor was I successful at taking my own life. So I have found a greater success in choosing the alternative. And that's what you're doing. And that's what John Walsh has done. He's now 87. 80, can you believe that he's that old? And in all the years he was on Fox doing America's Most Wanted.
Yeah.
And now it's the X. It's gone now global. He's put just over 2,600 people of America's top fugitives that do want to kill, that do want to take and make other people's lives miserable, take lives. He's helped put them behind closed doors where they can't allow others to fail. See, in life, if you want to fail, you're allowed to. Go ahead. You're not allowed to let others fail. You're not allowed to do that. There's never a right time to do the wrong thing, and there's certainly never a wrong time to do the right thing. So remember that. I also want to share one more quick thing before we talk further. We always seem to, you talk, your first question, what did COVID teach me? It taught me not to forget the very foundation from which I was born and where I came from. And I was born with a silver spoon. Now, when I say that, I'm not saying I was born into a wealthy family. I was born with a silver spoon in that my parents told me from day one that the results that I would get in my life would always depend on the choices I would make after my successes and my failures. I was taught that on a daily basis. My dad played college ball. His coach taught him that. My dad taught me that. So everything that would happen in my life would not be because of somebody else, although I might have to bear the burden of somebody else's choice, but it would be because of the choices I would make because of the result of those other people's choices and my own. I also tell people, Tyler, I was born with a silver spoon because we always had enough to eat. And I know that because every time I asked for seconds, my dad said, no, son, you've had enough. So I know that I had enough to eat, right? I know that when I asked for seconds. I lived in a very, very modest home where my dad worked in a factory when I was first, and we lived in a single studio apartment in Midvale, Utah. 3 boys. I'm the oldest for 8 years. I mean, I lived a modest life. I can't thank my parents enough for teaching me that value and that principle. And so back to these tendencies, we tend to forget that. There's a story about a guy that's in a hurry to get to a meeting, and he can't find a parking spot. He's looking for a parking spot, and he can't find one. So he looks up to heaven and he says, hey, if you help me find a parking spot, God, I promise I'll start going to church, I'll stop drinking, and I'll treat my wife better. I will do that. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, what happens, Tyler? What happens?
There's a parking spot.
Right there, buddy, up front. He quickly looks up to heaven and says, never mind, God, I found one on my own. Right? So, it's a great story, but listen to the power that's in that story and how quickly, we get our COVID vaccination and we start to loosey-goosey again. And we just live this cyclical life where we forget. I'm not here to talk about religion or faith. I know that there's some innuendos in some of the things I share. But folks, please believe that I'm not here to convert or no one better than the other. Some of his greatest people don't, they don't call them what I call them. What makes them worse off or better than me? There's a reason for diversity. And you know what's cool about that? I don't have to understand the reason. I don't have to. My job is to love, give, and serve everybody that I come into contact with. And that's what I've been commanded to do. And I'm going to do the best I can to obey that commandment. And so, anyway, It's, one of the things that
as you tell that story of John and then to the guy with the parking space, part of that, I think, in life is there's things that happen to us and we don't understand why it happens to us until much later. At what point did you realize what happened to you? Both internalize yourself, not because I've heard the stories of amazing what your dad shared, and I'd love to get into that. But when did you internalize to say, okay, I know now why this happened to me and what I can do from it? Because there's an exact moment I can remember exactly where, and I'll share this, that I realized my brother's life did not end because of his death. It happened through me, and be able to share the story. And as I've grown as a person, I can remember exactly where I was. And I want to know if maybe that's the same for you.
I think it's different for everybody. Leslie,
okay,
can I ask you to get me a drink so I can just scrape juice from this? Thanks, Leslie. There's a couple pivot. I call them pivotal moments, and they still happen today. But I think one of the factors is in the hospital when I got the news after waking up from a coma that I was not going to be able to move all four limbs and that I was going to be confined to a wheelchair. All those thoughts start going through your mind. Everything from how am I going to provide, what's going to happen on my cruise, who's going to feed the elk and the horses. Wait a second. How are we going to have more children? Now, wait, she deserves somebody that can help her get those children. Wait, I can't hold their hand. Forget about the intimacy. Wait a second. The other boys are now 3 and 1. Who's going to teach them how to play ball like me? Wait, they deserve a dad. And you see where this starts to escalate.
Mm-hmm.
So now that's when you start to say, okay, you know what? I'm not doing that to them. And we use that as a crutch to fall on. Do something drastic. It's probably not the best thing to do. So, for me, one of the times that pivotal moment came, I don't know that I understood my passion or my purpose, but when it went from finding out a way to overdose on drugs to the time, I remember that day. I was waiting to find a way to take my life when Shondell brought the kids to come see me. And you guys ought to go watch this because my mom caught it live on video. It's on my YouTube channel. Just go to chat Hymas and you'll see it. She brought the kids to see me. They're 3 and 1. There's no walking. They ran to my bedside. You'll see it. It's unreal. They run to my hospital bed. I got tubes on me. Dad, we haven't seen you in a long time, Dad. Dad, Mom said your legs don't work. Dad, we don't care. You promised you would coach us, Dad. And I'm still quiet. I don't want to talk. I don't know that I want to. So I'm in that space that I put myself in. That hey, you guys are going to have a dad that's going to be able to give you what you deserve. That's the space that my mind is in. And your mindset's everything, folks. I'm going to tell you that right now. Whatever you're thinking in your head right now will dictate your results. Very, very true. No matter where you're at, your mindset will always dictate your results. My mindset was set on. You guys can say whatever you want. Huh? He didn't say another word to me. He said, Dad, you promised you would coach us, Dad, so I'm going to get you ready to coach us. I didn't say a word. I was excited. I kind of maybe pretended a little bit. You can see it on the video. I mean, I know exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, I'll smile and I'll put on the show, but it won't take me long after I get out there. I'll find a way. I will find a way. You guys are going to have everything that I had. When I didn't see that I could give them more than what I had, not worldly stuff, just maybe the opportunity to grow up with a dad that made a mistake and was better because of it, and did more for others, maybe because of it, not in spite of it, but because of it, kind of like what you're doing. That was not my thought. The kid puts on my shoes. It's right on the videotape. You guys got to check this out. And he's laughing, having a good time. The other 1-year-old is putting on the other shoe, laughing to see who can get him. I can't feel it, but I can see him laughing at me because they've never done that before. They're putting on my shoes, knowing that I used to put on theirs. Now they're putting on mine because they've been told that my legs and my hands don't work. Because Mom prepared them a little bit. They're only 3 and 1. It's amazing as adults when we forget the perspective of our youthful age. And then the kid comes up and says, all right, Dad, we're taking off this. Dad, this is a robe. Dad, you're half naked. Dad, I'm getting your shirt. Dad, you're going to wear a shirt. We'll cover up, Dad, we'll cover private areas, Dad, with a sheet, Dad. And I didn't need a big sheet anyway, just a small sheet. But they covered me up, and then they put on a hoodie. You'll see it. It's all on tape. We have nothing to hide. The kid puts on a hoodie, and you'll notice the 3-year-old sits right on my midsection. They lay the bed up. The other 1-year-old sits on my feet. I can't feel any of this. And they start playing basketball catch. Dad, are we doing it right? Yeah, it looks pretty good. And then the little kid starts to laugh out loud. The older boy starts, because they start doing chest passes. They say, okay, here's a bounce pass. Just a bounce pass right on my knees. Let's try bounce pass. Let's try a side angle pass. And this is all caught on tape, and they're laughing. And that's when I realized that I was dishing assists, which my dad said was more important than how many points I scored anyway. And after that day, suicide's never been an option. Didn't miss a game after that. Didn't miss one game. No, I missed a lot. We talked about that earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't miss one of my kids' games. And I missed a little bit with the adopted children. I can't do that. Never. We fall back into tendencies.
Mm-hmm.
I don't.
Yeah.
I've gotten back into the tendency of me being gone is the way that I need to live my life. And yes, while I'm helping people, that's great. But what have I accomplished? If all I do is go help other people or try and instill hope or inspiration or maybe a little bit of desire and drive and motivation to people, what have I gained if I've missed my wife's birthday, which I did miss, by the way, this last week. But she just got back. So we scheduled to celebrate it when I got home. So we've been celebrating it now for a week. Because before I left, we celebrated it. Her birthday was 4 days later. I was gone. And we celebrated it. She flew and met me in Las Vegas. We've been celebrating it ever since. And we'll celebrate it again tonight. That's a pretty good... My birthday's never lasted a week. So so there's a point right there. There's no one right answer. As you heard Tyler say, I remember the day. For me, it's been kind of a journey, but that's one pivotal moment for me. But they still keep happening to me today. So I want to be real with everybody. That, as you, and I'd love to hear yours, but
well,
might continue to happen.
I'll share this piece. And you mentioned earlier about this feeling, this guilt, those thoughts. Never one moment have I felt that. Just from the moment it happened, it was an accident. And as a person of Christian faith, there's only one way, and that is God. And I share that with people, and they're dumbfounded. And I have no other reason to explain it other than God. And at the same point, doesn't mean it was easy. Doesn't mean it wasn't hard. I mean, my relationship with my mother during high school was 4-letter words. Because there was a lot of pain. There was a lot of happened when I was 14 as an end of my freshman year. And one of the things, where it hit me, I was driving home from soccer practice. I took my son to soccer, and driving home and at an intersection. And as I look both ways, and I just feel this presence come over me. And he said, if you had the opportunity to go back so your brother didn't die, would you? And I said, no, I would not change it. Because I wouldn't be the person I am today, and I wouldn't be able to make the impact that I've made and going forward without the person that I've become, being able to tell about my brother, being able to tell about that experience, how I, dealt with it right after the fact. And I know you share this story of you in the hospital and your boys, and there's this angst. You hear that as you're telling it, this angst. I don't want to be this person. And then all of a sudden you melt and realize I'm exactly the person they need. And for me, it was quite different. The fact that right after the accident, and the police, the ambulance, everything is there, and I'm sitting in front of the barn with our cows. I grew up on a dairy farm, and I'm standing there. The sheriff is leaning against the hood of his car, and he's asking me questions, and I say to him, I'm 14 years old, and I look at him as stone cold as I can remember. And I said to him, you can ask me any question you want to ask me. However, there are 50 cows in that barn that aren't going to milk themselves. So I'm going to go in there and I'm going to go milk those cows. And if you want to come with me and ask me whatever question you want, you are more than welcome to come with me. But that's what I'm going to go do. Now, I don't remember if he came with me. I don't remember that, but I remember that as clear as you and I are sitting in that conversation. And there was another moment at another point where I'm in the gym, I'm sitting on the bench, just got done working out. And I hear that voice again and he said, Tyler, this is how you deal with things. And I reflect back to that day, and I reflect to some of those challenges there. And I hear from you, you talk about that drug of choice. And what I hear, in my view, is I hear that's how Chad's processing and dealing with it. I'm serving people. I want to serve people. You talked earlier. It's like, I would love nothing more than be able to brush a horse, saddle a horse, give it to my wife, because that to me is what I hear from you is you want to serve. So as you're out serving people, it's like I'm serving people. And what I realized, how I dealt with things in my business, how I dealt with things as a leader is exactly what happened on that day, June 4th, 1994. I put my head down and I pushed. And as I had that exposure, it's like, oh, that's how I deal with things. And that was the moment that I realized I can't do that anymore. I need to, instead of push my way through things as a leader, just push. I had to learn how to be more empathetic. I had to learn how to be softer. I had to learn how to, in my vision, put my arms around people.
Sure.
And so those couple experiences. And so again, as you share, I'm like, it's not the same, but I can sure relate.
Oh, no question.
And I can relate.
And everybody watching can relate, Tyler. They can.
Yeah.
You don't have to go through an experience of taking somebody's life accidentally or break your neck to feel trapped. I've met a lot of people that have full function of all their limbs that are more trapped than you will ever be in your lifetime. You've met them too. They refuse to change their mindset or the way that they've thought in the past with changing circumstances. If I refuse to change my mindset or what I believe because of my choice that night and the shortcut that I took, which ended up resulting in a broken neck and being paralyzed in all four limbs, if I refuse to change the way that I walk, and you can see today I push a chair, but it wasn't the way I was taught. I was taught to walk how most of you that are watching walk. Yeah. But if I'm not going to change that because I'm too stubborn, too prideful, I'm not changing for anybody. You've all met people like that. Where would I not be today? I wouldn't be here with you. If I refuse to accept people's help as I travel, I wouldn't be able to travel. Do you realize that I say this with humility, I'm the only one known of by Guinness that travels the world alone that's 95% numb. How's that work? How do I get on the airplane? Let's just wait. How do I get my bags in the airport? Wait. How do I get in the airport? I travel alone. There's no nurse that goes with me. I drive myself. I know that looks weird being 95% numb, but I've only hurt a couple of people, so that's not a bad record at 21 years. People that I've never met before help me every day. I've never met them. Hey, buddy, we got you covered. We'll help you get in the Uber. And when I get to the hotel, I'll find another stranger. Hey, man, can you help me get my chair? Hey, are you guys cool to grab my bags for me? I'd sure be grateful. And that's how it happens every single day of my life. Because my clothes. It takes me a couple hours, but I just change it. I don't like these clothes. I didn't say I'm not grateful. I like cowboy clothes. I'm grateful for these. And you should all be grateful that I'm grateful. This could be a naked podcast if I wasn't grateful. So I'm grateful for these. I just like.
There's probably those out there, Chad. Yeah. Let's be honest. This is not that.
Yeah. No. So I like wearing cowboy clothes, Wranglers and cowboy boots. And I just can't wear that stuff anymore. The Wranglers are too tight for my skin. They make red marks. And the boots are too narrow for my feet that seem to be swelling up the older that I get. Throughout the day, they get wider. The more I drink, the water doesn't go to my bladder until I lay flatter at night. Right now, the water's going to my feet. I got some water that's flavored right now. It just goes right to my feet. So I wear shoes that expand with no laces, and I get them on by myself. It takes me a couple hours, but I can do it by myself. But if I refuse to do that, I'd still be stuck on the bed watching Judge Judy, which is very addictive, by the way. I want you to know she's very addictive. So I just wasn't fulfilled watching that all day long.
How much of that, in my viewpoint, as I heard you share that before, to me, I believe that is the greatest leadership lesson that, just my viewpoint, that's why I want to know what was Chad like before. I believe that's one of the greatest lessons that you are able to really share with people. And this is me, and I've been part of this at times. Like, hey, I can just do it myself. I can just figure it out. And I had a mentor, and I think you know him as well, John Maxwell. And one of the greatest things that he has shown me is the greatest way to add value to others is let them add value to you. And when I hear your story about, I go out and I do it, and I ask people, hey, could you help me? I think there's an element of you're able to add value to them because they're able to do something that you can't do. And they all of a sudden automatically, no matter who they are, they're like, I can do that. I can add value to them. And I believe there's an intrinsic fulfillment out of that. And so to me, as I hear that and you tell that, it's like, to me, that is a great leadership lesson. Of one of the greatest leadership lessons is, even though I can possibly do it or maybe not do it, when I ask someone else, hey, can you help me do this? There's a lot of value and fulfillment that comes of that. That's just my take. And I'd love for you to, tell me differently or say,
I agree with
expand.
you. I agree with you. I think when we surrender our pride and allow other people to realize it's not that I can do it on my own, but surrender, that it doesn't have to be my way, that more doors open in the process. Remember, I never wanted to be on your podcast. I never wanted to travel the world. All I ever wanted to do was be a simple farmer. And I found out through surrendering our pride that some of our weaknesses can become our strengths as we let others add value to us. And that's what's allowed me to farm across the world. It's not because I'm better. It's certainly not because I'm stronger. It's not because I have more money or I'm more healthy or because I'm a Christian and others might not. It has nothing to do with that. It's because of the little choices that I'm choosing to make every single day that allow those opportunities to be put before me and put myself in a place of potential to serve, not in a way that I had envisioned, but I have been intrinsically, like you said, that was your word, fulfilled by that. If you want to make God laugh, tell him your plan.
Yeah.
So I think we have a lot of the same belief systems, and I think that a lot of people that are watching today have the same belief systems. While they might not be spiritual or religious, they don't have to be. It's got nothing to do with that at all. Again, some of the greatest people that I've met in this life that understand what leadership is. They don't even call it leadership. They don't even call it church. They just go out there and they just do it. And to me, I think that's what what's interesting about what we're talking about right now. If a pandemic or a crisis were to happen in your neighborhood right now, let's say it's a school bus that tips over because it took the corner too sharp. Tyler, what would you be doing along with all of our viewers? Let's say they live right next door to you and you hear this big crash. Yellow bus is on its side. There's a bunch of kids in there that are screaming, and you got blood, and you don't know what you got. You just got a yellow bus turned over on its side. Kids are screaming, and you see blood everywhere. What are you doing right now during this podcast? If it happened right now during the podcast, what are you doing? You wouldn't even hit the hang up button.
Nope.
You would hit the end button. You probably wouldn't even think about taking off your earbuds. You probably wouldn't even think about that because you only have one thing on your mind. What is it? Chad, I'm sorry, I gotta go. Bye. I mean, probably wouldn't say that. You hear the big bang and the boom and people are screaming, and when you get to the bus, what are you doing the second you get there? I'm just asking. Well, you can answer. What are you doing, Tyler? The same thing everybody else is doing. You're helping?
Yeah.
Let's be more detailed. You're going to start breaking glass in. Your elbows, your fists, your feet, because you got to get kids out. Tyler, which kids are you going to grab first? I'll be more specific with my question. Are you going to grab the black ones, the white ones, the Muslims, the Christians, the Hispanics, the gay ones, the transgender ones, the ones with pierced belly buttons, the one with pierced earrings, the ones with butterfly tattoo? Which kid you grabbing first?
The ones that I can help the most, the first, which is probably the closest ones. Yep.
So you're telling me you're not going to pre-qualify skin color, race, black, Muslim, illegal immigrant? You're not going to pre-qualify? You're just going to grab the first? Is that what you're telling me?
Yep.
I happen to agree with that concept. Here's the problem with that. There's a problem. Look at what we're fighting over right now in our country that was built for land to have those freedoms that we just talked about. Look what we're fighting over right now on every news channel, in our capital, in our homes, in our churches, in our schools, and we're teaching people by what we tweet and how we respond to other people's posts. Look at what we're teaching. Look, just by our response, or when we see somebody write something and we completely disagree, look at what we're doing. We're judging or pre-qualifying right there. But you told me once the bus tips over, there's no more judgment. That's the problem. We wait for a crisis or something called COVID before we Oh, you know what I said on that Twitter thing about that person, or those bad things I said in private to my spouse about that individual, or the way that I thought about that individual, and I predispose them to judgment. We wait for a crisis to happen, and right now I'm trying my best to live a life. I am, because I'm guilty of this, of predisposing people to judgment, making assumptions, and I don't want to wait for another COVID or another bus to tip over my life before I realize none of that matters. None of that. When it gets right down to it, the color, the choices, how bad they've been, what they've done, that's not for me to even
Doesn't
consider.
matter.
I'm going to help whoever I can, regardless of what they've done or what they've chosen to do. The message, I think, not wait for the bus to tip over. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. No, I think the great challenge there, and you brought this up earlier, is like sometimes we need reminders of it, but the best place to start with all of that is with yourself and with those closest to you.
In your home.
Hey,
in your
home. How am I treating my? Yep, exactly. I want to. I would be remiss if I didn't take the opportunity to ask about your dad and the impact he has had on your life, and allow you to just share some of those elements, because this is what I saw as I listened, as I prepared for this. Your dad is probably one of the greatest encouragers, wingmen, confidants, supporters as I've heard someone describe. And to me, that's what I envision of him. But I want to hear it from, what impact has your dad had in your life?
Do you have any kids, Tyler?
I have 3.
How old's your oldest?
She is 14.
How would you feel if you found out that your daughter, who's a freshman in high school, was on her way home and was in a car accident? And that car accident didn't just take her legs that are amputated, which, by the way, just happened in Utah here about a month and a half ago up by a place we call Bear Lake. But also she would be confined to a wheelchair. That takes away her junior prom. She will no longer be part of the cheerleading team or the soccer team in the capacity she wanted. And she is in immediate surgery. They just flew her to the hospital. You haven't seen her yet. And they walk you in there in a gown and a COVID mask to see her for the first time, and her legs have already been taken from her. And she's got all those tubes hooked up. So I'm just put this into perspective. As her father, thinking about and gone through already what you've gone through with your brother, would you or would you not want to take your child's place? Now, I don't know about you, but most of us would give anything. And my dad did. He wanted to give, but he knew that he could not. Can you imagine the guts? I've got children. I don't think I could do it. I don't think I could do what my dad did for me and be the one to give me the news. But here's why he did that, which I later learned from my mother. My dad did not want anybody to give me the news and designate my prognosis according to science or whatever they have discovered in the past. Mm-hmm. My dad was straightforward. He didn't hide a thing. He said, "Sonny, I have some good news and I have some news that's going to be a little tough. And after I give you this news, I have 5 things I want to ask you to do." I didn't say anything to him. I was still numb and just coming to, but he wanted to be right there. Nobody else in the room, by the way. My dad requested. Not even my wife. Because he knew once I would get this news, my dad knows my pride. He knows. He knows how driven I am, and he knows I do have a lot of pride. So he asked to be alone, and my wife gave him permission. And he told me the good news, and he was glad that I was with him still. We're best friends. And then he gave me some news that I didn't want to hear. He didn't call me paralyzed. He didn't say I lost my legs. He said that I lost all 4 due to a decision that was made, and he didn't hold judgment against me. And then he said, "I am asking you to be a better father with no hands and no legs. I'm asking you to be a better husband to that beautiful wife of yours. with no hands and no legs. I'm asking you to be a better basketball coach, just like I taught you. You don't have to do a layup. It's on yourself to do it. I'm asking you to be a better contributor to your community. That was number 4. And number 5, he asked me to be a better disciple. Now, when he said that to me, I immediately called his bluff because I thought he lacked credibility. Dad, easy for you to say. You're not in my shoes, never have been, probably never will be, Dad. And I said some things to him that he knew I would say, and he didn't say anything back. He did do something, though. He didn't put soap in my mouth. He should have done that. He should have. He didn't. He turned around and he walked out. So let's make this very clear. The room was already dark. I mean, it's an intensive care unit. There's tubes. I'm breathing through a trach. I can talk just a little bit. I can't feel my body. I'm peeing through a catheter. I can't feel my bowels. I mean, I'm just, the room's, now once my best friend leaves, now the room's very dark. I can't even hit the call button to have someone come and comfort me, like a nurse. Can't even hit the call button. So now the room's really dark. And my dad left because we say this on the ranch all the time. You can lead a horse
to water, but you can't make him drink.
And I wasn't willing to be teachable. I want you to know, as I'm sharing with the group that's watching right now, that's my greatest fear. I don't fear the camera anymore. I don't fear the lights in front of my face. I don't fear talking in front of people. Heck, I don't even get the butterflies. My greatest fear is that people come and listen to your podcast and they leave the podcast and they don't go find someone to serve, hug, or love. What a waste of a podcast. I'm just, what a waste of, right now we've been together for 51 minutes and 53 seconds. That's how long Tyler and I have been on. That's our time right now. What a waste of your time. Do not be the undrinkable horse like I was. My father came back in and said, are you ready to talk? Are you going to be like all the other horses in the herd? I said, Dad, I'm sorry for the swear words. Let's be real. I can't hold her hand. I can't coach. I can't do a layup. I can't feed myself. I can't hit the button, Dad. I won't swear, Dad, but I can't go to the bathroom. I can't have an intimate relationship with my wife. I can't. He said, stop. Just stop. Son, are you listening to yourself? He said, do you notice what all those sentences started with? I said, can't. He said, no. You missed this thing. You missed it. They all just started with the word I. I didn't come here to talk about you. I came here to talk about all those other people that are out there in the waiting room that we can't let see you because you're focused on you and not them. And the 5 things I asked you to do have nothing to do with you at all. That takes guts. That takes courage. And that was my dad's way of healing. I later learned from my mother that my dad went, while I was in a coma, my dad went 4 days without any drink or any water. 4 days. Not 40, like another person that we know, but 4. And I asked my dad about that years down the road. Dad, Mom told me that you went without food or water. Can you tell me a little bit about that, Dad? He said, son, I want you to know that I'm proud of you for what you've done and what you continue to do. And you're my inspiration and you're my best friend. If it's okay with you, son, I'd like to keep that to myself for now. It's very sacred to me, going through that and seeing my son go through that. But I'll make you a promise, son. Before I leave this life, you will know exactly why I went 4 days without any food or water, and I will share it with you. It's been 6 or 7 years since we've had that conversation, and I've been in a wheelchair for 21. My dad still hasn't told me, so I can't answer for you. But I know that he knows that I want to know, and my dad will decide that timing, and when it is, he and I will talk. I don't know if I'll ever be able to share it, because apparently it's very, very sacred. But something happened during that time, and it gave my dad the courage to do an experience and put himself in a place of receiving what he needed to receive in order to have the courage to help me see through the bifocals of something he wasn't even sure about. But he was willing to put his faith on the line to do it. He was willing to, because he had other options. The other options are to let the doctors talk to him.
Yeah.
That's easy. Let his wife go talk to him.
It's real easy to choose not to lead.
Oh my God.
The hard choice is I'm going to lead and see this through.
Absolutely.
And that takes real courage.
That takes more. Courage is not even the right. I don't know that we have a word in our language because courage is probably the closest thing or one of the closest words. I don't think there's a word to describe it. Sorry, when I get emotional, I cry out of my nose. I don't know. That's probably a side effect of being. I don't know why I cry, but I cry out of my nose, not my eyes. But my dad is, to your point, somebody that I talk to daily. I didn't say every other day. And it's very quick. And it sounds like this. Hey, son, where are you at today? Dad, I just got back from a trip doing a podcast with a guy by the name of Tyler. Just wrapped it up, Dad, and I'm going to head out to the ranch and talk to a bunch of youth tonight that are staying on the ranch, Dad, for their youth group summer camp. And then I'm going to come home and we're going to celebrate Chandel's birthday for the 5th Hymas weekend. And they'll say the same thing he always does. Well, man, I just want you to know I'm sure proud of you. We'll talk very soon, son. I better go by. And that's it. There's no I love you, and I don't need to hear it. How many people have their father call them every day? I don't know the answer. I'm just posing a question. How many people have their father call them every single day? And tomorrow my dad will call me. Same thing. Son, where you at today, son? Dad, I just landed in Austin, Texas, Dad. Dad, I'm here for an organization, and son, what group is it? Dad, it's an insurance group, Dad, and they're doing it in a hotel, Dad. In Texas, they don't believe in COVID, Dad. In Austin, they've never thought it existed. So, Dad, there's no math. That is kind of different, but that's the way it is. There's a culture here, Dad. It's a little different. He said, well, that's okay, son. Just stay safe. Just want you to know I'm proud of you. Better go. Bye. Just like that. And that happens every single day of my life. He doesn't ask me about tomorrow this week because it takes away from his reason to call.
Sure.
So he's asked me not to talk about tomorrow. He's asked me to look forward to tomorrow, but don't. That gives him a reason to call. And so we don't talk about tomorrow.
There's a leadership lesson in that.
So I've tried to do that same thing with my children. If I don't call, I'll text. But we usually have devotional every night. I'm pretty good about that. I mean, I have missed a little bit here and there when I'm flying, but even from the plane now, I'll get on. I'll cover it with a blanket. You're not supposed to do this, but I'll call and I'll get on for devotional at night for about 20 seconds real quick so I don't get in trouble. But I try not miss a single day about talking about children. So just trying to follow his example. My dad's an incredible human being. My dad was the one that inducted me into the National Speakers Hall of Fame. My dad was the one that coached me in basketball. And I'm not taking away from my mother. Hey, I used to pray for my mother. Now I just pray to her. I mean, my mom's a saint. Don't get me wrong. My mom and my dad have had their faults, and we've all made our mistakes. But I realized that my mom's mistakes have made me a better person, and so have my dad's. Mm-hmm. I'm hoping that my mistakes do the same for my posterity. Yeah. I'm learning that, I think, more now than ever. So.
Well, I appreciate that, and Chad, thanks so much for this. I appreciate getting to know you, and I appreciate this time together, and thankful that a friend connected us, and sure. I appreciate everything you've shared because I know
what's
you're
cool
going to
about
make
this?
An impact. Yeah, man.
We didn't say one thing about the accident, which I think is the perfect thing to do, because it's not about that. If people want to know, they can find it. It's not. It's all over the. I'm sure yours is easy to find. It's things are broadcast all over the internet.
Yep.
But it never was about that. Just like you said, you wouldn't go back and change that accident. It never was about that. That's just the catalyst of what's allowed you to do what you've done. So I'm kind of glad that that didn't come up.
Thank you for being thankful for that. And to me, it's not about that. It's about everything you learn and everything you do. And it's just an event. So let's keep moving. Chad, thank you.